Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. The power of DeFi. What does that mean? The power of DeFi. It is just another way of saying that the central systems that we have been so used to for over 150 years is coming to an end. The DeFi allows you to put your own money into your own bank account and have 100% control over that bank account. Not only that, if you follow it to its logical conclusion, which I greatly encourage people to do, you will understand the electoral process that you go through in politics as well will also be yours. That means you do not need to cast away your electoral abilities or your voting abilities, what is known as the legislative, executive, and the judicial. At this moment, of course, through your own, shall we say, for a wanting of a better word, ignorance, signed all that away. Well, thanks to the beneficiaries of this planet, the knowledge, they reversed all of that. Names at this stage are not important. What is important is that we know that we have been gifted something really quite beautiful. There is a question that you must pose to yourself. Why are people so poor when there is so much vast monies being printed? Why is the same problem that we face year on year with financial liquidity for ourselves, as it were, is reflected year on year and occasionally rewarded like a dog that plays tricks, as it were? And I'm sorry to use the word dog, that would insult the canine kingdom. It is because 99 point or more percent of your finance, of your votes, of your electoral ability, of your legislative ability, your judicial ability, and your ability to execute, what they call the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, has been hidden from you. Traumatized even. Well, all of that has changed. Now, that's the broad spectrum of what I have to say, insofar I know the generic understanding of the enormous benefit that we have with this DeFi system. So, me wanting to encourage you to look at the source, and I thought I'd do the presentation from the source websites themselves. It's all very well for you to take my word for it, but you need to qualify it for yourself. And the best way that I can do that is show it to you at the source itself, and that's what you're looking at. So this is a Ethereum website, and it only takes you 5 minutes to completely understand the beauty of DeFi running on the principle of that aged saying, that mature of all saying, simplify, simplify, simplify. For the first time in history, you don't need to trust me, and I don't need to trust you. Because that position, that precarious position of the middleman, that hijacked the trust position, the DeFi system makes away with that. So what sits in between is the integrity of the computer program that allows us to interface financially, knowledge-wise, or anything else. And that is what the DeFi system is. It's not just the finance. Now, at the back, I've got my banking lamp on because I know banking infrastructure and I'm a banker. I'm able to do that because I have enough knowledge. So I've turned my banking light on. Those kind of displays are running through your world all the time, but you're not aware of the symbolisms around it. Those lights have been around in your life for over 120 years, whether that was a green lantern lit by candle or by an electric bulb. Okay, so look out for these symbolisms. Now, let's get straight down to it. Okay, what does this website say? DeFi is an open and global financial system built for the internet age. That's the digital age. The digital age, ladies and gentlemen, just makes things a lot harder to hack. In fact, the hacking principle of trying to hack into a digital phone is virtually impossible. I say virtually impossible. In order to take out a penny, you may need to spend £1,000 to take out a penny. It's financially unrewarding. An alternative system that's all tightly controlled and held together by this decades-old infrastructures and processes. In other words, the best of what a man can do, man the species, is within that DeFi system. It gives you control and visibility over your money. It gives you exposure to global markets and alternatives to your local currency or banking options. Banking options. DeFi products open up financial services to anyone with an internet connection. In other words, anyone with a cell phone. And they'll largely owned and maintained by the users. In other words, whether that you are a producer or an end user, that integrity always remains yours, and it's never given over to an institution that never earned your trust, and as latter days go, have proven themselves to be criminals, i.e. the banks, the governments that are so sparse with anything factual. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard a politician speak anything factual. So far, tens of billions of dollars worth of crypto has flowed through DeFi applications, and it's growing every day. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, if the entire internet shut down, it will just reboot itself. Now, you've been introduced to this concept a very long time ago. And there was a sci-fi. It's actually a British-made sci-fi. And I've forgotten the name of it. I think it's like from the late 80s, early 90s, where they travel through time and space with a robot and a computer program and another guy that's, rather, should we say, ragamuffin-like. Okay. And I'll think of it in the course of this presentation because it's very telling. Even there, they told you if the entire universe was shut down, universe means one verse, okay? It can be really just that simple to reboot the entire system. So the DeFi system itself can never be controlled or manipulated by any central organization by itself. 25 years ago, even 20 years ago, you would have known that as a torrent. Okay, but so much negative publicity around it was created. The general public shied away from the torrent, but this is a more evolved version of the torrent, where every single computer on the planet is the internet and does not need to be rerouted or even rebooted by any central organizations like YouTube Google, central banks, Bank of England, or any one of these things. So there is a boom, is what it says, in crypto economy out there, where you can lend, borrow, short-term, long-term, earn interest and more. Crypto savvy people have their DeFi to escape crippling inflation. Look how he puts it. You essentially will have all the facilities of a bank or a central bank does. Just like the centralization of YouTube, which in itself is not a good thing, but what it does do, because without it, it can't survive, is it gives every man and a woman that has access to the internet, it gives them the ability and the controlling facilities and the technologies of any large media organization. All you need is a camera, something to record from and to broadcast, and you can broadcast live, or you can do anything you want with it. It essentially gives you your own TV station, period. And that is what the DeFi is doing in terms of finance and your ability to control your own financial contracts. That is what it's doing. Some folks have taken out and paid off loans worth millions of dollars without the need for any personal identification. Very important. In that one sentence, what they're basically saying, the IDs, which is another word for an id, which is an alternative personality, an ego, introduced by that crown agent called Sigmund Freud, who got human beings to believe that they have an alternative personality. All this is very new, so they can sell you IDs, because without an ID you can't open anything in the centralized world. Here, I can interact with you, whether I have an ID or not, ask you for £1 million, and a middleman in a contract sits there as an intelligent contract. And that contract programs the money that you are going to give me, or vice versa, without the middleman. And the sanctity of that cannot be compromised. With that one sentence, they just basically told you, if you want to buy a house, you can go to the entire world, and the entire world can be your bank, your banker. And that will enable you to bank your own monies and do what you need to do with it, with the 1,000,001 differing contracts, with 1,000,001 different units of currency which are programmable at the press of a button. That's power, ladies and gentlemen. That's power. Full stop. Let's go a little bit further. DeFi versus traditional finance. Some people aren't granted access to set up bank accounts or use financial services. Half the world's population don't have bank accounts, so they can't participate in commerce. That is control in a disgusting way. Lack of access to finance. In other words, if they don't go to a bank, they don't get no money. But now they can just come to us. How does that work? Well, say they have a business idea and they have something to sell. We agree upon it or we don't agree upon it. And we don't have a middleman to write those contracts out. Monies are exchanged. Goods are sent. If the goods are not received, then the money cannot be received. And when people are individually, that's a wanting of a better word, individual. When I'll say the unique users, individual means corporate. When the unique users, and that's men and women, when our women are unique, are doing things together, whether it's one-on-one or it's one with 1 million other people, it's all that very simplified. The bank accounts that you will hold in the world of crypto will also act as your telephone number. Your own website is also your own telephone number in this DeFi system. And that website can also be your public key to your crypto wallet. In other words, any number, any letters in any sequence, whether that it's a telephone number or a www dot or anything that you make up as part of a domain name, can be your telephone number, can be your bank account, your public key, and your website. Who needs Facebook on the back of that? So, what is the most powerful thing about the world of the crypto, which is essentially another word for Bitcoin that started all this, is that which is yours remains yours. And it is the governments that have to answer to you and not you answer to them. You understand the power play? It's a 180-degree shift. 180-degree shift in the way that you are going to conduct business. It's already happened. It's already happened. It's already several years old. Now, as this website says, it all started with Bitcoin, Titan money, Titan money. The words that are used, like the Olympians, the gods, when I use these things, I'm not using it as a form of mysticism. They are not mysteries to me because I have their bank accounts. You understand what I am saying to you? The paradigm shift is easy enough to understand and see the benefits of by me saying to you, you are the banker. Your governments or your bureaucracies answer to you and not you answer to them. You understand this. You understand that the government is your servant. It's just that you have not learnt, unlike through my students, through the Tricks and Traps University, to be able to speak to your government so you can put them in place as they are as your servants. The Titans are not a mystery. Just take a look at Bitcoin. So it all started with Bitcoin. And how old is Bitcoin? 12 years old now? That's how long these things have been around. Certainly you as the general public will catch up very quickly because you've got no choice in it. You understand this? You've got no choice in it. I love this word, programmable money. Yeah. In passe, it means no gram, no contract. Yeah. PRO means no, gram means weight, and money, programmable money. All of those words will also be changing before your eyes as the world of the quantum grammar takes hold of this planet. Programmable money, which means, ladies and gentlemen, let's imagine these notes that I have, which are fiction money. Okay, fiction money. That I can program each one of these. So if it's John out in internet, this money needs to go to John. I can program this money to say how it's going to be used. That's if I want to do that and he agrees with it, when it's going to be returned back to me. And I can send it through in the world of digital currency, crypto. Crypto means to keep safe. It's another word for a vault. And that money will transfer into his unique domain name, bank account, telephone number. That is all his. And that money has been programmed to perform in such a way that both of us are beneficiaries of it. So by me giving him this, he might say, I'll give you 10 pence back on top of this over a period of, say, within 3 months or a year, which means I will get £5, 10 pence. Or I can say, this is for your house. So this £5 will have a, shall we say, a home loan agreement on it. And that goes and can only be spent towards his home. And I can ask for it back at an agreed time. You understand this? This is programmable money. Yeah. In other words, I can write on this note all the terms and conditions I want for it. And he, in turn, John, in internet world, will write his terms and conditions on it just for this £5 to help him buy a house. And a million other people giving him £5 to raise enough money for the castle he wants, because he deserves a castle. Every Englishman's home is his castle. Every single one of these people that is going to give him one of these, or a whole lot of it, all can be programmed. Like you sitting there typing on a keyboard. That's what programmable money is. So if I want to buy a piece of land or a piece of home, and I want to go to my entire student base, and only my student base because I've got trust with them, and let us say there is 7.5 million of them, each one of them can program their own money and send it to me. And I can shift through that to say what is acceptable and what is not. And all that can be done at the click of a button. Has that 180-degree shift taken place in your mind now? Of course it has. Yeah. And these things can be all done at the click of a button. It takes a lot of money to print these fiat currency. It takes a fraction of energy to produce a cryptocurrency. And of course, it has proof of work. You see, this note, ladies and gentlemen, whether that's $1 or euro, you have no proof of work. You don't have proof that the Queen worked enough to print that £5 of money. There is no proof of work, and hence that's why it's called fiat currency. Fiat means it's flat. It can only be backed up by you. That's one heck of a con job. So, I really encourage you, really encourage you to understand what loss of tolerances are, loss of lotteries even. Lotterers, I don't even know what this name is. No loss. Lotteries like pool together are a fun and innovative way to save money. Well, it looks like we can all come together as well and create our own little bank where we put our money in, and the artificial intelligence looks after it. Because we all agreed how that artificial intelligence is going to operate. We create the parameters of the executive. You understand? In the olden days, an aeroplane had to have a pilot, a co-pilot, and a navigator, also another word for a pilot. So, captain, co-pilot, and a navigator. And because the technologies got better, the navigator was able to stay on ground, and a computer program to interface with the captain and the co-pilot replaced the need for every airplane to have its own navigator. You understand that? This is nothing new in the world of aviation. So, in this world, ladies and gentlemen, you also get to print your own money called tokens. And those tokens are also part of the blockchain. You can, for example, using Bitcoin, create a value of what you think this presentation is worth. I can do that. And it's up to you to say if it's of worth or not. So you might want to give me a penny for it. Instead of me putting advertising on this, you guys will pay for it, or you don't pay for it. But the revenue will go to you and I, not to the middleman called YouTube. You understand what I'm saying? Of course you do. There is a principle that stopped human beings all coming together and doing business, education, and so on and so forth. And that was the element of trust. You see, because you out there, the unknown figure, because you have not earned your trust with me, but I have earned my trust with you because I've done all these broadcasts and each one has been qualified. That trust is established. But it needs to be a two-way party, or even a 1,000-way party. I need to know that I can trust John down the other end. And that ability for John to establish his trust can be hard work on his part, or he's not ready for it, or there are obstacles in the way, like communication, conduits where he can send goods, establish trust, write contracts without going through a writing guild. All of that caused a problem for people to come together because there was no trust. Well, in this trustless ledger system, you don't need it, because the computer program with its parameters, that artificial intelligence, sorts that out for you. And that's called the Byzantine general's problem. For the first time in history, if I wanted to do business with Abraham in whatever period in history, I don't need to trust him and he doesn't need to trust me, because we have an artificial intelligence with the parameters that we agreed upon within that time and space to say that it will execute our wishes on our behalf so we can get on with the business of being in business. Do you understand that? Read up on it. At the moment, ladies and gentlemen, because in so many countries of the world, including this country and in Ireland and America, the fraudsters, which is essentially another word for the banks and the land registries, can sell land, houses, without your permission, and they can sell it to a multitude of people. You think these are things that just happen in Africa and India? No, no, no. It's happening right under your feet. But because the media as the middleman, is totally 100% controlled by the banks and owned by the banks, you don't get to hear about the multitude of fraud. Whereas people think what they own, i.e. their lands and so on and so forth, are theirs. Do you know that the feudal systems of the mortgages, death pledges, only have a 99-year lifespan? Did you know all the mortgages on this planet have come to an end because the lease on the planet itself has come to an end? Let me turn on my full screen and just get that message across to you. You see, places like Texas, United States, Jamaica, India, Africa, and the men and women that live in those places, those names are actually only legal fiction names. And the legal fiction name has a lease on it. It's called a 99-year lease. And they've run out. You don't know that. And on the back of that knowledge, the Federal Postal Court is able to eliminate mortgages on a global scale. You see, if you don't have proof that you own a house, and if you go to my website, it will tell you you don't have proof. Anybody can sell it. And if you don't know how to deal with it, you will lose your home, like a bank account, because they don't have proof of work. You see this thing here, this effigy, has no proof of work of that £5. And this is a legal fiction, ladies and gentlemen. See that face there of Winston Churchill? That's a legal fiction. You see that principality there, ladies and gentlemen? That's a legal fiction. You see that seal, that artificial seal, one in silver, one in gold, is an artificial seal. And you see that building, ladies and gentlemen, you see that building. Let me turn on the big camera for you. Let me see if I can get that scene for you. You see on this £20 note, there's a building there. That building is an art centre. It's an open declaration that this piece of note has no authority. It's only a legal fiction. It's part of an artistry. There are ways of banking the promissory notes. People tell me that. If I was to put my mind to it, I would be able to work that out. But is it really worth banking £20? I do not know. Do not know. But on the back of this tightened money, I certainly do. You see, I asked Hugh and Lance to put the program together to teach us how to do the NFTs, which is intelligent contract systems. Non-fungible tokens. Something that can be divided or something that cannot be divided. Fungible being can be divided. Just as this can be divided into whatever denominations that they are printing. Pennies, 2 pence, 5 pence, 10 pence, 50 pence, and £1. Those are denominations. And the first of that program is this Sunday. I think it's at, what time is it on? It's 9 p.m. UK time. So you calibrate that to time, whatever it is. We do need to know who you are. So there will be some protocols, and you can read about it on my website. Because we will only allow people that we know in to say they are who they are by name, as well as location. Otherwise, we can't mint those tokens for you, because the course itself is going to be tokenized, making that your investment. Quite a powerful way of saying it. You guys seen the new Matrix movie? I'm sure most of my students have, and most of the people listening to this have. You see, there's a little phrase in there that he uses, which is those ones that have the will and the volition to come out of the system of being wanting to be lied to, which is called the Matrix. That can happen, but you have to put it to work. Yeah, it's quite an open film. I don't want to be a critique of it, but it's not as good as the others in terms of entertainment. In terms of straightforward talk, it is very clear. They even use the word sheeple. Now, sheeple is a very old word. It's a word that's from the 1940s. It's another way of saying human beings that are so domesticated that they are sheep-like. They require a shepherd all the time. And if you want out, that's what this movie is about. It's about the DeFi. It's about the Bitcoin. It's about you taking responsibility for your finance, for your health, for your own government that you put in place that's answerable to you. And of course, your ability to make 101,000 contracts with the entire population of the world through programmable smart money. I would love to play you a few seconds of this, but I don't want the video to be taken down because of copyright infringement. I really love obeying copyright because it's not my property. So under fair market usage, I'm allowed to show you like 2-3 seconds of it. You can see the imagery is wonderful, but the message of the sheeple is that they have to step aside. If you're willing to dictate your terms and conditions to the entire world, and they are willing to do that with you, you've just come out of the Matrix. Okay, it's a very old word, this word sheeple. So for the first time in probably 150 years, you now have the ability to move out of it.
Sheeple.
Yeah. It's the characteristics of a domesticated man or a woman called human. Another word for human is also sheep. Human means many shadings off. You can sell them any ideology you want. You can sell them sex changes. You can sell them reversing of sex changes. You can sell them any ideology that you want. Anything. Any religion. That's what you have. You can even say to them convincingly, let me just come out of the screen here. You can even convincingly sell them the idea of, say, Lord Jesus or Lord Buddha. When these men, as it were, in mythology, did their very best to move away from the legal fiction of a lord, because that's what a lord is. It's a legal fiction. And then, of course, when they pass away, they say, oh, he was Lord Buddha, which means they're practicing banking on the ignorance of the population. A man spent an entire life moving away from his principality under the title of a lord is now given back the title after he dies and put behind the walls from which he wanted to escape. The walls of the principalities. The Babylonian system of doing things, which is centralizing, lying until they get caught and then they run off somewhere else. They got nowhere else to run. Period on that. Okay, so these are very old systems that we are dealing with. Very old. Is another description of how in 1945 economist columnist, like a newspaper columnist, coined the term in 1945 called sheeple. By the way, very interesting point in psychology you got to know. You know all these animals? There are only about 12 animals that can actually be domesticated. Camels, sheep, socialized animals, dogs, and so on and so forth. You can't domesticate a cat. Any one of these animals that have been tortured to the point of domestication, once they return back into nature, the animal that has no horn will begin to grow horns. The wool that it was carrying begins to shed off, and it just returns back to nature after a couple of seasons spending without a shepherd. In other words, the sheep can go back, the sheeple can go back to being what they are, which is men and women. And if you ever wondered why the banks and the warmongers and the courts and the governments go at it day and night to keep you in a perpetual state of fear, is so that you don't ever grow horns to protect yourself with, and that you don't ever stop creating wool for your slave master. Because any one of these dogs, when they become feral, I think it's F-E-F-F, I've forgotten what the word is. It means something that goes back into nature. I used to mispronounce it and say feral. I think the word is feral. Feral. F-E-R-R, I think it is. Any domestic animal, the camel, the horse, the sheep, which is another word for a goat, all of these animals, which are synonymous with being domesticated, once they leave the pen of the slave master, they return back to nature. Yeah, something you should know, and that's true for human beings. So what do you think is going to happen in this environment of DeFi psychologically to mankind all over the place? They're going to become feral, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to become strong psychologically and physically and less docile. Because that which is theirs, and the threat of taking that away from them, like the threat of being infected with a man-made disease called COVID, or something that is medical dictionary defined as corona being a common cold, and a virus has always been a psychological condition. It's never been a physical condition. We have no evidence of a virus ever existing. They'll show you RAN molecules that have been rejected by your nucleus to be cleaned up. And of course, they'll take that and put it in a petri dish and say, hey, look, that's a virus. No, that's an IRA. That's an RNA molecule coded to grow that particular protein. They make it up as they go along. Okay, look, in this movie called The Kingsman, you need to know about these things because movies are the public announcement to educate the general public, just as The Matrix is. There's nothing mysterious about it. You understand how factual it is being conveyed. Movies like Kingsman is to convince you at the beginning when they created this privateering intelligence groups, which is what the governments work for. They work for this, like in this particular one, it's the Oxford family. And I've educated you about the Cambridge family and the Oxford families. These are the pirate organizations that run the governments by hijacking your word, your vote, your electoral ability, your ability to create your own legislation, your ability to execute those legislations, and of course oversee it, called the judiciary. And thank God, or thank the Creator and the Titans, my students, Tricks and Traps University students, are able to do that. In this program, in this Kingsman, they will show you a scene how this character called Conrad, who's a legal fiction of the Oxford family, how he sacrifices his life in World War I to become heroic. And the way that you would know that's a fiction scene is because he doesn't have a tin hat. It's not a small matter. Every man in World War I, irrespective of the rank, had to have a tin hat. He doesn't have one. And that's how you know he's playing a fictional character, because in the scene he is out of place. It is like somebody wearing a wristwatch, a digital wristwatch like this, and playing a character in World War II when such a thing don't exist. Those are the subtle ways that the filmmakers program you, the fiction, to believe fiction. You understand? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to move into your psychology for you to feel sympathy towards the Oxford family for having one of their children sacrifice themselves for World War I. It's a fiction nonsense. Okay? It's a fiction nonsense. So, all of these movies are all about what is going to take place, and they're trying to mitigate that the general public don't turn on these buggers. Yeah. Because as you now know, this world of the Matrix and the DeFi will make every man and woman on this planet non-domestic. They got their natural instincts to protect their children, their wives, their families, their intellectual properties, their communities, their countries. It's going to kick in. And no amount of warmongers on this planet, i.e. the Admiralty and the Admiralty courts, will be able to stop mankind. Quite literally, ladies and gentlemen, this is the age of man. Man, the species. Humans, which is the coloring of the law, is about to become extinct. The liars are going to become extinct because the ability to lie will hold no water in front of a computer program that works on the simplicity of 2 times 2 equals 4. How are you going to lie to a computer? How are you going to lie to a calculator? Convince it that somehow 2 times 2 usually means minus the banker taking his cut, and what you end up with is something grossly less than even 4, like 1. In other words, you put in 4, they give you 1. I think you guys understand what I'm talking about. And this is why, to meet that period in time, I've commissioned Hugh and Lance to teach us of how these intelligent contracts, these tokenizations work. And the course itself is going to be tokenized. In other words, the course itself is monetized so you can sell it on when you have learnt what you need to learn. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourself. Bye-bye now.